CT Cowboy, the Kevin Allen Show, welcomes you to today's show. So, sit back, relax, and put your thinking caps on, and remember to share, like, and subscribe.
And welcome back right here on the Kevin Allen Show, Wednesday edition. We are live again, guys. I've been away from the live for a while, been traveling, been doing all that stuff, been following this God's journey that I'm so privileged and honored and unapologetically going to be talking about every day of my life because I know what it's done for me and what it can do for you. And I'm going to introduce you now to a good friend who I often have referred to as one of the nicest politicians I've ever met. And this is Dominic Rapini, folks. He is a former candidate here in Connecticut for Secretary of State. He's been in the game for a while, and Dominic has usually a lot of good information when it comes to some of these outrageous laws. You testified recently, Dominic, up at the Capitol. How are you?
Kevin, I'm doing great, and I want you to know I really appreciate your rant that opened this opened up the show. I mean, you're spot on. I mean, you refer to me as a nice politician. Well, you know what? I'm outraged is what I am. And I've never been elected, but I'm outraged in what's happening to our country and what these politicians in office are trying to do to us is very clear. They're not even hiding their intentions. But, today I want to talk to your viewers and listeners about new legislation here in Connecticut that's focused on election issues. So right now, the Democrats are throwing a lot of stuff at us, right? That's their typical tactic, is to overwhelm the system, right? Try to let it break, make it hard for us to defend all the things that they're doing so they can get, they'll throw up 10 things and try to get one through, right? Everyone needs to recognize that tactic. And so here's what they got coming at us. One, they want people in prison to vote. And Kevin, I know you have a special part in your part of your heart about men and women in prison. I think you know them better than everybody.
I think they are important. They are important parts of our society because we need to re-enter them. But giving them voting rights at a time when they are struggling themselves to figure out how they can be positive in society is just madness to me. Go ahead, Dominic.
It is madness, and they want to take the minimum age of people to register to vote down from 17 to 16, and I'll explain to you why that's not going to work. They want to make it mandatory for you to vote to the point that you get fined or some sort of punitive damage or penalty for not voting. All right, and they're trying to. Well, we'll cover that again, and then they want to put in a style of voting called ranked choice voting, which has been a failure and a source of confusion and chaos everywhere it's been tried here in the United States. So let's go here's what I testified on. I can testify on all these things, but I just can't do all of these things. So we're going to tackle them in different ways. Ranked choice voting, instead of you just making one vote, which is the time-honored tradition for 240 years, is one voter, one vote, they say, you know what? I want to pick Kevin as my number one, Dominic as number two, Ned Lamont number three, and you get all these different, votes. You get multiple votes for each candidate for each office. Kind of like in Little League when every kid gets a trophy, right? They want every politician to get a vote. Mm-hmm. And what happens is most voters can't even digest the information about the top two that they're choosing from, let alone the third, fourth, and fifth. And they very often they skip those other ballots. And so what happens in ranked choice voting is they eliminate people who didn't get enough first round votes or enough, or the last person in place. Towards the end, there's a bunch of voters get kicked out. Their ballots get exhausted and they get disenfranchised. And very often in ranked choice voting, the person who got the first the most first place votes can lose and not win. They win by plurality, not by mandate. So there's a lot of confusion around it, and it's very common. And sometimes in New York City, it took 3 weeks to figure out who won. Alaska, it took 2 weeks to figure out who won. Even Jerry Brown, the Democrat governor of California in 2016, he vetoed ranked choice voting, says it's too confusing and it denies a clear choice or winner for the electorate. So I oppose that, and I think the only reason it's up there is because Governor Ned Lamont, pandered and made a promise to the Oz Greenville Party that he would look into it. So we can't let these things happen. It's only done in right now at a statewide level in Maine, in Alaska, and those citizens are outraged and trying to repeal it. So that's one. Second, they want to make our voting mandatory and universal, like they do in Australia, as if we're anything like Australia. Now, Australia has like a 90% rate of voting because it's mandatory. But then they had this phenomenon called donkey votes, where people said, okay, fine. And they'll sign in Mickey Mouse, the donkey, they just want to get over with. And they reject the being forced to vote. In the United States, it's a constitutional right. But Democrats want to equate it to a civil responsibility, like jury duty. Not the same. One is a law, one is a constitutional right. And, our First Amendment guarantees us free speech and the right not to be compelled to speak. And voting is a form of speech. So if you mandate voting, you're going to compel speech, and that's a violation of our laws. What it comes down to is it's the quality of voter, not the quantity of voter, right? And we have enough problems with most of our electorate being glued to TikTok, let alone glued to the merits of different candidates. Mm-hmm. And they want to take 16-year-olds and let them register to vote. Well, they've been doing 17-year-old pre-registrations for years now. And guess what? I did the numbers. I have the entire voter roll database on my computer. In last year, there were 15,000 18-year-olds registered to vote, and only 5,000 voted in November. That's 0.004% of the electorate. And so pre-registering 17-year-olds did not give us some boon of 18-year-olds out there voting and being civically minded. It was a colossal waste of time. And it'll be even worse use of our time and resources to allow 16-year-olds to pre-register. So, we just go on. And let's of course, not forget to talk about incarcerated voting, right? These are men and women who are in prison because they murdered, they are rapists, they embezzled, they stole from us, they preyed on law-abiding citizens. And I think the role of government is to have the first priority to be the law-abiding citizen. And that's where we got to focus our efforts. If you're in prison, you forfeited all kinds of rights, right? The right to walk freely about, the right for employment, the right. It's not like you're going to get conjugal visits in prison. They don't do that, right, Kevin?
Well, they did for the longest time, and I'm surprised they're not doing it. I'm surprised they're not throwing house parties there.
I know. And so all these measures is about getting more.
I'm going to throw a party there, by the way. I'm going to be going into prisons. We'll talk about it later. I'm bringing a different kind of party back to prison. Go ahead.
Oh, good. I just hope you're going in the front door.
Yes, I am, sir.
So those are the updates. If anybody wants to do something about this, just call your lawmaker. Wherever you are in Connecticut, just call them up and say, listen, I don't want prisoners voting. I don't want 16-year-olds to get pre-registered. I don't want universal voting. That's a violation of my constitutional rights. Mm-hmm. And we don't want ranked choice voting because nobody should have to have an instruction manual so they could vote.
So let's do this, Dominic. So thank you for taking time out of your busy day. Of course, you don't just get a chance to run for campaigns. You got to have a real job and pay the bills and do all the things you do. So I know you're busy. Thank you so much for giving us the time you always do. Let's start right off with the rank-based voting. Now, why is this a conversation in Connecticut? They are winning every time. What do they want to win by? Do they want to win by 100% of the vote? What's their game here? Because it doesn't make sense.
Look what happens. This happened in California. All it takes is for, let's say, the opposition or the Democrats to fill up all these candidates with their people, mm-hmm. right? Their candidates, and the A candidate, the B, C, and D. So what they're trying to do is to make sure that their B and C and D candidates get votes in the second round, and it drives out a Republican or a conservative, right, or an independent. They want to drive them out, and that's one of the things you can accomplish in ranked choice voting is you can put all these people, and so you get they all first choice Lamont, second choice is Kevin Allen. Well, all those Kevin Allens, can drown out another candidate. So. Right. And that's really what they're trying to do. But I don't think it's going to pass because, there's these other minor parties that get wiped out, right? The Working Families Party, the Osgreble. They no longer can endorse the same candidate like Ned Lamont. They just have to go in the back of the line like everybody else, and they would be really forced to be irrelevant. So I think they're going to fight on our side and say, no, we're not going to do this. But let's not take any chances.
No,
it's just too complicated. We only had 52% of Connecticut citizens vote last year. 52.
Wow.
We're going to make it more complicated for them.
Wow.
That's
it. I mean, voter turnout, not just in Connecticut, but across the country is always bleak. But, all right. So that one sounds like it's been an attempt across the nation. I've heard about it before. In fact, I heard testimony when I was in the State House. Now, let's go on to this next one. I want to ask the question, how is it constitutional? You already mentioned it, but I want to hear your perspective. How is it even legal to tell me I have to vote? I mean, I don't understand. What is it? What is the thinking here? Who put that bill up, by the way? Whose bill is that?
I think Josh Elliott. There's a lot of people behind it.
Okay.
I think Josh Elliott. He's a professional. We're talking about inmates voting. We got inmates running the asylum here.
Yeah. Josh is an interesting guy, and for folks that don't know who Josh Elliott is, Mark, if you get a chance, put up Josh Elliott's information because he's been in the State House since I was elected. He was elected in 2016, and as much as he's extreme, he's got a following, Dominic. And this is the thing I just don't understand, right? I mean, Josh isn't a bad guy to talk to. He's got funny clothes and he's whatever, but his perspective is so anti-freedom. He doesn't understand. Like he thinks he's talking about freedom. These aren't freedoms. Being told you have to vote.
Pure socialist. He's actually from my hometown, Hamden, Connecticut. He has a
no kidding.
There.
Oh, really?
And the challenge in Hamden, Connecticut is it's been overrun with all the people that work at Yale University.
Sure.
Right.
Sure.
So all these his following is a bunch of some of the craziest people in the country are educated people, right?
No kidding.
They're book smart, but they're not street smart, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's his following. It's from all the far left liberals that are from Yale University that live in Hamden. They're just on the bus ride for them.
So, does this bill have any legs with Josh Elliott putting it up? Is there any interest in forcing people to vote? What are they going to do? Have Gestapo's going to arrest you if you don't vote? What's the plan?
They're going to fine you. They'll fine you. $250, $20, whatever they come up with. They'll fine you.
Do you think they're going to find the populations that they actually claim that they represent? Let's be real and break down some real numbers here, guys. If you really know about COVID numbers, the COVID population of people that took the vaccination in statistics alone, they didn't take it in areas of poor minority communities. Are they going to go in the poor minority communities, Josh, and find these people? That's a great question. I think he should be asked and answered.
You're going to take people who might be economically challenged. And you're going to charge them $50, $100 because they didn't vote.
Exactly.
Insane. I mean, that's just another assault on the poor, if you ask me. And I don't think we even have the infrastructure to be able to even enforce it.
Did Josh Elliott speak at the hearings as well? Did you have the privilege to hear him?
No. It was the Government Administration Election Committee. He wasn't there. I'm surprised he didn't.
Yeah, usually he'd speak on behalf of it if he put
he had a couple bills there, and I don't, he didn't care to show up.
All right, so this is crazy talk. So let's skip to some more crazy, right? So now we also have when you have those first two bills, you had two other bills that you testified on, correct? And those other two bills have influence in elections. They have influence in the population who's afforded an honest election. Inmates incarcerated. I think it was State Representative McGee, who was no longer a state representative from Hartford. He actually originally put that bill up that keeps on getting legs. And I actually stood up and debated that bill, not understanding then that actually this would still be even lingering. What is the sentiment in the House of Representatives and the Senate of our officials? Is there any opportunity they're going to give the rights to felons to vote?
Listen, the danger of that is always there. There's certainly at least 10 people spoke for it. I think another equal amount spoke against it. I don't think it matters. I just know that they're going to keep doing it over and over again because every time they do it, it softens the positions of the opposition, right? Or it makes the electorate more familiar with it and it reduces the shock value every single time. That's a typical liberal tactic is to start getting this conversation going. And they know they're not going to succeed the first time, second time, or third time. But by the fourth time they bring it up, they're like, oh, I've heard this before. Inmates voting from prison, blah, blah, blah. And they just keep bringing it up until they open this Overton window where they have a chance of getting it through. And so just
you know this, Dominic. There's 5 floors in the Capitol, right? In the LOB, right? There's 5 floors in the LOB. On that 5th floor, do you know who sits in that 5th floor?
No.
That is where the research is done in a bipartisan manner by lawyers and referrals that actually refer to the committees of cognizance. And they are the ones that actually set up the bills, right, to be the vehicle to go through, to be heard during hearings, to be heard during votes, and eventually either be voted for or against. And I'm asking now, who's paying their bills? Because they're clearly not advising. You just told me 4 bills that are basically illegal and violate our rights, yet they're letting it go right through. So I often wonder who's actually watching the hen house up there. The 4th and last topic that you had up there in Hartford, you testified on. Please go take it away and explain to me why it's a bad plan.
Well, they want 16-year-olds to pre-register, right? And if those guys were doing their research, they would have figured out that we've been doing 17-year-olds for a while now, pre-registering them to vote. And if you look at the voter rolls, you'll see there's only 15,000 18-year-olds even registered, and only 5,000 voted. Like I said, far less than 1%. And yet they want to expand something that's already not working. Our Constitution called in the 26th Amendment, that's when we lowered the age to 18 for the eligibility to vote. And now that certainly was intended for statewide elections, and they allow states to vary from that. But 18 was recognized, has been recognized for decades, if not longer, that is the right time for people to vote. And so there's no reason. It's all about getting quantity of voters, right? They want quantity, not quality, right? Inmates are not quality voters because they can't even know the candidates. 16-year-olds are in TikTok. They don't know the candidates, right? Mandatory voting, you're forcing people to vote who weren't interested enough in the candidates to even get out there and vote, right? So this is not, ranked choice voting. They're forcing you to vote for people there's no way you can even get to know who they are, let alone give them your 2nd, 3rd, or 4th ballot, right? This is all about quantity of voting, not quality of voters, and it's punitive and it's a waste of time. But that's the overarching theme, is that they just want more people voting. They don't care who they are and what they know. Just get out there and put something on, we
already see illegal voting being accepted in some part. This is just madness. So Dominic, let's move from this, if you don't mind, because I have a few minutes with you and I appreciate your time. One of the big conversations going on right now in Connecticut has been Mr. Proto, Ben Proto, and this possibility of, and this is Republican Party centered, and if you don't want to get into it, just tap out and say goodbye. But supposedly there's a change in the bylaws that is going to be voted on next week. He did go on our next guest, who's lining up in the green room. You might see Lee Elsey back there. And he did go on the Lee Elsey show, Ben Proto did, and said, no, I'm not changing the laws or the rules, rather. But if you hear Ben, who's a very qualified cocktail party attorney, he was able to creatively say some things that sounded like, well, he's not changing things, but he's going to get in line with what the federal law looks like. And a lot of people are speculating this could be for Themis Claridis to get a smooth ride in to run against Chris Murphy. Your thoughts on what's going on with the Republican Party here in Connecticut?
That story's just been breaking this week, so I have not talked to Ben. And listen, I have a great deal of respect for Ben Proto. He's done a lot of great things for the party. But like every one of us, he's got to bring up his game a little bit, right? Myself, our top of the ticket, we all got to increase our game if we're going to win. If this is true, and the idea is that the state party can then spend money only on the person who won the convention, I mean, what are we doing? Why would we spend any money on a Republican, right? And trying to promote them when we have the opposition doing whatever they want to do. It's just tipping the scales. It's nation building. If this is all true, and I'm absolutely against it. Listen, I'm a free market guy. I believe in freedom in every aspect. And if somebody loses the convention, that means they still had a lot of people that voted for them, and wanted them in second place. Yep. So, and when you look, the 1,000 delegates that go to a convention are not always the best indicator of what the state wants.
Right.
There's all backroom deals. A lot of delegates, and I've talked to all 1,100 of them twice now.
Yeah.
At least 50% of them are totally disengaged from the process.
Right.
So they're only voting for someone who somebody else told them to vote for.
Exactly.
So it's all politicking. It's inside baseball. So I don't want these folks to be the sole determinant of our final candidate, because half our delegates are not qualified. Because and they just don't pick up the phone.
Leora Levy proved that point this year with her
Exactly.
winning eventually. Dominic Rapini, where can people find you, check you out, follow you, and make sure we're ready for your next election, because I know it's coming soon, the announcement. Go ahead and talk.
So my website continues to be dominicforct.us. That's my handle on Twitter and Facebook, where I'm most active. I'm keeping my website out there, but I'm working on some other big things for conservatives in Connecticut. And I'm not running for office right now, but I'm working on some big things to pull us all together. And Kevin, you're going to be part of it, and you don't even know yet, because I haven't told you.
I can't wait. Anything you want to do, Dominic, I trust you. I think the Connecticut voters trusted you. We need more Dominic Rapini in Connecticut. Looking forward to talking to you again real soon, Dominic. Thank you so much.
Thanks,
go and check
Kevin.
him out.
We got this.
Got it. God bless you, brother. And there you go. Dominic Rapini, who ran for the Secretary of State's office here in Connecticut as the Republican ticket. Very open, very honest guy. I think when you hear Dominic speak, you obviously know you're getting, I think, face value with who he is as a person, which I think everyone should appreciate. Agree or disagree with Dominic, you're always going to get an honest answer. Back in a moment, talking about honest answers.
Thank you for watching today's show. Now go out and do good things. Please subscribe for the latest updates, and remember to like, share, and comment often.